I would smuggle the drugs, back into the United States. And dude, the first time I did it, so they told me there's only one way, put it in your ass.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no problem. I'm not like, it's just it's just $100 little,
Yeah.
And dude, the first time after like doing it 3 times, right? They sent me through secondary, which is where they thoroughly search you. And they started picking apart my motorcycle. And I'm over here, I'm shaking. They know that I'm fucking shaking. I'm so nervous. They know. But yeah, they
the dog's at like your butthole.
Yeah, the dog's like looking, he's smelling all around.
Welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Grips. I'm your host, Brian, and today I have here a very special guest, Mr. Parrish. Welcome.
What's going on, Brian?
How you doing today?
I'm good, man. Life is good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know I've been... You were, when I started the podcast, I've actually never heard you share your story, but when I started the podcast, you were one of the people that came to mind from the other fellowship.
Oh, I'm humbled.
Yeah, you were like the first person that come to mind. I was like, just what I know of him has been pretty interesting between the, which we'll get to it, like the cage fighting and the political stuff and all that good stuff. And you came dressed to boot, right?
Yeah, it's not often I get to put on a suit, so it's like I'm a painter, so I like to wear the suit.
Yeah, you looking fly, man. You look fly.
I appreciate it. Maybe one day I can wear the suit a lot more often. That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
We'll see. I like that. That's like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Dress for the job, whatever.
Yeah. There you go. You
ever seen that show Suits with Harvey Specter?
No.
Oh, dude, it's a pretty good. The first few seasons is awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it about?
It's just lawyers, but Harvey Specter's like this really smart lawyer, and he dresses real sharp, and he's just a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show, but after season 3, I stopped watching it.
Yeah, you look like an FBI agent almost.
Oh man,
yeah, you look like you might.
No, honestly, I was the guy that they were always skeptical about, like this guy, because I got no tattoos. They were always like, man, this guy, he's a little bit smart. You know what I mean? He might be a cop.
He's a narc.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah, I thought you was about to serve me a subpoena at the door. No. Anyways, man, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure having you on. I guess we'll start out with what's your clean date?
March 1st, 2018. So I just picked up 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
That's awesome.
We're, I heard a speaker say this. We're only people who want a reward for jumping out of a burning building. It's like, yeah, I just like stopped killing myself. It's not a big deal. But yeah, we know like that it is special to us.
It's an incredible. I've battled throughout my recovery, like, because it's like one of those things. I shared it previously on the podcast. It was like, this is the only place where, like you said, can be congratulated for jumping out of a burning building, because you can't go to a job.
Yeah. And be like, dude, and I've made that mistake in my political talks. Like, I'm like, I'm clean and soap. It's like, oh, you idiot. Why did you say that? Yeah. And like, even on my website, I have that. I'm open about my recovery. And it's like, I'm actually going to take it down. I'm actually going to take it off.
Really?
Yeah. I had a guy come talk to me. He's like, dude, I love everything about you. He's put my signs in his yard. He's like, he's like, this is just I'm not running. And like, he said it in a very like nice way. This is just my opinion. He said that, that having that, being open about heroin addiction on my website might not get those like Ortega old people folk vote. And I thought about it, and he's right. I'm gonna vanilla it up a little bit. I'm gonna leave it open. Like, I'm gonna say like, yeah, I had some struggles growing up. We can talk about it in person, something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it is. And I think the vast majority of people that actually vote are in the older category.
Yeah.
But it definitely. is definitely a triumphant thing. Now you're on a podcast talking about it. So
yeah. And it's such a big part of my, you can't like, that's like such a, where was I for 8 years, right? Where was I?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a pivotal part of my life. And also like what I bring to the table. Like, I know I wasn't learning, college stuff, whatever they learn in college. But, like, I was getting a good taste of the streets, man. And, some of what goes on in those dark pits of society. And so I got to taste some of that. So
well, it's been interesting to watch you walk along that journey, man.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about your story? How'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up?
And what are we doing today? Like an hour?
Whatever, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Until my back starts to hurt, that's when we'll.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I just want to say, like, I'm part of the other fellowship, and for now, maybe, I was listening to a guy talk, and I was like, something hit me last night and I've always said this from the beginning. I am going to transition over to NA eventually. Just because he was talking about the readings, and like when those NA readings come up, like, dude, I identify with those readings are so powerful for me. Those, the beginning readings, like as a hardcore drug addict, like so, and I've always known in my heart that I was going to kind of transition over to NA, but my guy Brian, he is like everybody loves Ryan. He's he's one of the coolest cats around. So
you talking about me?
Yeah, man,
oh, thank you, man.
Because in the beginning I would go to NA meetings, and like, dude, I heard you speak one time. I was like, dude, this dude's like, not to like boost your ego, but like, this dude is walking in the light. I know you're not perfect, we're not perfect, but I was like, dude, this dude is like funny, like. So yeah, I was just like, day one, I was like, this guy's the man. So
thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah,
that means a lot.
So I'll go ahead and I listened to Brandon talk about him coming from a drug addict family, and like I did too. My cousin died at 21. My uncle died. I had a second cousin who these are overdoses. Overdosed. I had a second aunt who overdosed, and then a lot of people in my family died early from alcoholism, like cirrhosis. So I come from a long line of drug addicts. And then both my parents were drug addicts. So my dad is clean in the program, and he had like eight years or something like that, and then relapsed for a little bit, and then came back in, and now he's like really in the middle of recovery, and Eric Losey's his sponsor, so he comes into both fellowships, and so that's been really cool. Like, my dad's really in the middle. Like, we share a detox commitment every other Thursday. Like, I'll be there this Thursday, and he goes the following Thursday. So yeah, man, it's cool. And then my mom, it's like funny, we can talk about this too. My mom is now like my mom's always been a bad drug addict. Like, we've all, like, maybe we'll talk a little bit about some of the stories, but just like, and my mom is like doing the best she's ever done today. And as much as I judged Suboxone in the beginning, right, I would, I was just not like a promoter of like that way. But for some people, like, it is like I said, if check my Facebook posts, like, I would make fun of but my mom is doing so good and is on Suboxone, and she's not on a big dose. She's off of everything. And so I've never seen my mom this like content and healthy too. Right. So, and I'm like, so now I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it now. Like, there's times where I'm definitely cool with Suboxone. So,
when it hits home.
It hits home, right?
It talks about in the literature, it says everything we know is subject for revision, especially what we think we know about the truth. Yeah. So I'm just very, and we can talk about how I think it should be implemented into Gateway if you want, like, cause like, that's something I'm passionate about is it's just tackling addiction in general, politically too, right? Yeah.
So, so my mom's doing, and she started vaping too. Like, she used to smoke those those 305 cigars.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so now she just vapes and like, yeah, and I've seen her get healthier. And like I judge vaping so much.
Yeah.
And like here she is, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually was able to, I got off all nicotine products May 7th of 2018. So coming up, I'll celebrate 5 years of no nicotine. So,
Wow.
Yeah. I just wanted to get off, I just wanted to get, I was like abusing the shit out of cigarettes. Like I'd be killing myself, bro. So I was like, I got to stop this.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm born and raised here.
Your mom, does she go to meetings and stuff?
She doesn't. No.
She doesn't.
No, not at all. Yeah. And I wish she did. She'll occasionally like come to, she'll obviously hear me speak. My like, for sure time that I speak is every year on my anniversary. That Saturday at Java, whatever the day falls, during my anniversary week. So she was there. My grandma was there. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to censor a little bit?
I did censor it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even in sharing in AA, I have to censor a lot. Like, you know what I mean? I don't have to. People don't. You've probably heard that people don't these days, right? In AA. But out of respect, I do try to censor. But like there's times where I need to hear like some of this. Like I was an IV drug user, and there's sometimes where like I'm just getting on where I'm having a bad day and I'm craving that, and I want to hear some of that talk where it more relates to my specific drug addiction struggles. And I'm getting on Spotify and I'm searching NA podcasts. So but she doesn't go.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that struggle with substance abuse, not just alcohol, that go to AA. Especially I think a lot of celebrities, it's kind of more socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Because whenever you go, like if you're in a workplace or wherever you're at, political type stuff, and you share AA, people know what that is.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. When you share, when you say I'm a part of NA or Narcotics Anonymous, they say, well, what is that? And then you have to explain what that is.
Yeah, and I always say like I'm not like part of any cult. I'm in recovery, dude. Like I'm, you know what I mean? I'm cool. I'm in recovery. I don't belong to AA. I don't belong to NA. I'm in recovery. And I spread myself throughout the field of recovery. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So, what was it like your journey into like traveling down that horrible path?
Yeah. So I always say this when I tell my story, like, dude, I'm a partier. I like to party. I love to party. I love to get fucked up. And I love to get high. I was a kid. I remember growing up, and like my neighbor Joe Christie, we couldn't get weed, but we had heard about this plant that you could smoke and get high. And so I'm like, dude, there's got to be other plants you can smoke to get high. So we would go into the woods and just like find leaves, and we'd just be smoking random shit. You know what I mean? So
identify.
Yeah. That's some junky shit, man. Like, yeah, if your kid is doing that, like, they're gonna be a drug addict.
Was you exposed to that though growing up? Because that's why I did it.
Weed? I was not.
No, I was exposed to. Well, yeah, people smoking weed and stuff in front of me when I was young.
I wasn't. No. My dad smoked, but he kept it really low key.
So it was just instinctive.
Yeah, it was just instinctive.
Wow.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it was fully instinctive. So, and then I smoked a little bit growing up. And I had a couple scares, right, with the weed, right? We can be a little bit scary sometimes if you get too high. And I left it alone, and then I picked it back up at 16. That's when I started drinking. And, I would be drinking, every weekend with my friends. Like, dude, we would have a lot of fun. I was real active in the skateboarding scene, and now I'm still a skateboarder. As you know, like, it's still one of my first loves. And so we had a large group of friends, like, and just like a fun, like, I still think, till this day how blessed I was to have that. Cause like at the time, my mom was going on crack runs. I didn't talk to my dad. My dad kind of was with like a new wife, and yeah, and I do want to say, like, growing up, like, me and my mom stayed at Hubbard House when I was in middle school. Like, oh, dude, I hated that my parents were like, I just wanted to have the normal house. Oh, I was so resentful at them for not like giving me that. Like, even at 16, I remember I shared a futon with my mom. Like, that's how I went to school. Like, I think about it now, it's like, I'm not blaming my parents, but I kind of I can a little bit. It's like, you can't expect your child to do good in school when they don't even have a room. So yeah, yeah. So I'll kind of jump to it, man. Like I said, there was a lot of parts of my childhood that I could bring up that just like the evictions, with my mom, like that were tough. And that, there were some incidents where my mom got her jaw broke by a drug dealer and like completely shattered. Like, I remember walking in and I saw the ambulance down the road and I'm like, I know that's at my house. And I just knew it. You just know like what's going on. And my mom was completely her face was completely swole. And yeah, so the guy had beat her up, and like I said, her jaw is still messed up because it fractured every part of it. So yeah, but man, that's just the stuff, that's the shit that goes on in that life, in that lifestyle, man. And but yeah, so let's jump towards my love for opiates. So like, opiates were my main thing, man, that really took me down, man. I remember the first time I did a perk 10, I could all of a sudden, like, just like alcohol kind of when we were younger, I was able to talk to girls. I felt confident, I felt relaxed, like my ADD went away, all that nervousness I felt went away, and I just felt I felt like a warm blanket come over me, and I was like, yeah. And I became addicted to that very quick. And
how old were you?
17, I believe. And
so up until then, it was just like smoking weed.
Yeah, I'd done morphine a couple times. My friend had robbed a pharmacy. Like, he was like, yeah, he was at a lookout with some like big kid, like some grown men who are doing like life in prison.
Yeah.
So they gave him all the like shitty ones, the shitty pills, So
yeah.
I remember I'd done morphine a couple times, but like morphine doesn't quite hit.
Hold that microphone up. Yeah.
Morphine doesn't quite hit as good as Percocets do.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and like around that same time, 17, I was like in an early relationship. You know how like that first love, like you're like don't really know what you're doing. You get, especially if you're addicted to drugs, like you're emotional. So like, I remember just like going through that roller coaster, like with her, and not loving myself, and like being addicted to drugs. So it was just tough on me. I remember like wanting to kill myself, like all that like stupid shit, man. And I started smoking crack at that time too. I was that same guy that broke my mom's jaw.
Yeah.
We were like, I was like, he would smoke crack, and we were I was like, because I had done coke, I had snorted coke, and yeah, like I was getting bad on coke, and I'm like, it's the same as coke, right? And he's like, yeah. And it just obviously hits your brain harder for some reason when you smoke it like that. But yeah, so I just started smoking crack a lot.
Yeah. So you didn't have like any. There was never no like, I ain't gonna do this shit.
Brian, man, that's like, yeah, I obviously when I was younger, it's like, yeah, I was never gonna do that, but I was never worried that it would like take over my life, right? I'm an adventurous guy, right? I like to, I'm adventurous, and I remember this kid that I looked up to one time. He said, "I've tried every drug once just to try it." I'm like, kind of makes sense, but like. I was scared of some of those like fear tactics that the school would do on you, like one hit, you're dead. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I would never smoke crack, and I would never use a needle. Yeah, that for sure. Yeah. But just God or your path just has a funny way of like it popping up in your life, man. And I'd never, especially when I started using a needle, I'd never.
Yeah. Do you remember what that was like the first time you smoked crack?
Yes, I do. Yep. Smoked out of a can. We were driving around selling. That guy got a big script of this was when the pill mills were, and you could just go to any pharmacy and get as many pills as you wanted.
Oxycontin Express.
Yeah. And so we had the big bottle of the it was him, of the Roxycodone. So the blue ones that everybody loved. You could shoot them up. They were super strong. And like I said, we were in the car, we were driving around selling those, and we picked up this other guy, and they were smoking out of a can, and I took a hit, and I blasted off, as they say. And
what is that? Can you describe that? I don't.
Yeah, it's just I'll be in meetings sometimes fucking with my crackhead friends. I'll see them, I'll be like just a menace in the meetings, holding it in. Like, they'll see me fucking crazy. But you just like you hold it in, and like right when you blow it out, it's like, oh, that's when that dopamine goes into your head, and like it's an extreme dopamine rush. It's an extreme
like Whippets almost.
Yeah, but Whippets is like a poor man. I didn't like that high very much. Yeah. It was a strong dopamine. It's just like the way Coke floods dopamine into your body. I'm not a chemist, but yeah, you just feel really fucking good. You just
street chemist.
Yeah, and like I'm a thinker too, so it's like, oh, I have my mind going. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking 100 miles an hour. So it's like, I love that, man. So yeah, there's a reason drugs are so addictive. We're not stupid. It's because they're really good, and people want to keep going after them. So I started on that journey. You want to keep going?
Yeah, you good.
You kind of guide me. So I started on that journey, like doing that, and like, dude, I was living out of it, like, because it was such chaos at my house, like the drugs, my mom would just let anybody in, like it was just I got sick of that. And so like I remember I was living on a tent, and this was to be the first time I lived in a tent off of Pottsburg Creek, right? And
how old were you when you were living in that tent?
17, maybe 18, but I think 17. And like, I always say this, like this would begin my pawning career. I've pawned everything that I have over and over and over and over. And I would always pawn it. I wouldn't sell it. And you know why? Because like, I'm done, dude. I'm going to get this last hit. Like, I didn't give up till the last year of my addiction, where I was like, I can't get sober. Like, I'm just going to go to the bitter ends. Dude, my first 7 years of using, it's like, this is my last time. Like, all right, I'm going to use this one more time. I swear to God, dude, I did that so many times. It's pathetic. Like, I was living in delusion, right? I was this addicted drug addict, but I was done tomorrow. I was going to quit. I lived every day like that. Seriously, in my head, I was like, I'm done tomorrow. And that's the power that's when they say powerlessness. That's when I finally had to, so I would always pawn it, and like I would go to different pawn shops because I was embarrassed to go to the last one because I was supposed to come get my shit out of pawn. So I just, dude, you know what I mean? I became familiar with every pawn shop in Jacksonville. Like I'd go to Orange Park, like, and just like selling stuff that like I got, that I either bought for a lot of money for nothing. And then, and I was a thief too. I loved to car hop. Sorry if anybody's seeing that. I'm so sorry if I ever took anything out of your car. Like, I'm so sorry. I probably should edit that out. No. Like, I'm so ashamed of that. Like, like, people work hard for this shit. Like, today I'm like a staunch, like, advocate of people being civilized and good to each other and not stealing and not littering, and you know what I mean? Like, and you get beat up enough in society where you're like, okay, like I want all of us to be better, to have a better society. And yeah, so I because I became unemployable, so I'd have to be a thief to support my addiction. Anyways, let's fast forward. So like it was Easter Sunday, and I had enough, and I was going to go to California. So I packed up everything that I had, 2 book bags. I was stressing about that girl that I was in love with, and who wanted nothing to do with me. And God, she did the right thing, right? And I was joking about this the other day. I had this nice bed that this rich guy gave me when I helped him move, right? Like that nice bed I sold for a $20 hit of crack. And it was like a $1,500 bed, nicest bed I ever had. My girlfriend comes over the next day. It's like, what the fuck happened to your bed? I forget what I even said, but anyways, my dad caught wind that I was going to go to California, and he comes over to convince me not to. And the stem had burnt my lips. I had the old crackhead burnt lip.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you're hitting the hot stem. It burns your lips. And my dad came over and saw that, and he's like, he was crying. He was crying at my door. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. I was so mean to him. And yeah, so I took 2 backpacks, and I started walking to California, and I made it to Lake City. And my mom was in rehab at the time, and my mom was like, oh, she just got her taxes back. So she bought me a Greyhound ticket, went to San Diego, and it was like a culture shock. Like San Diego's so beautiful, dude. It's so pretty there. Like, have you ever gone to California?
I've been to California, not
What
San
part?
Diego. LA.
Okay. Yeah. Isn't it cool, dude? Like,
yeah.
I hate
it. I love the fact that you could go watch, like, you could go to the local comedy store, like the comedy store, and you could see like famous people there, like big comedians doing sets. But I hate traffic, dude.
Yeah. I didn't wait in too much traffic. And I had a scooter, and by law you can go around everybody. Seriously.
Oh, nice.
They have this motorcycle law where if it's air cooled, you don't have to sit there in traffic. You can fucking go right through them. Oh. Seriously, yeah. So I never waited in traffic. I didn't experience that.
Yeah.
So, but I hate waiting in traffic in Jacksonville. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I go out there, man, and like I do pretty good. I was able, we can clean up and do okay for a little bit until we don't. And so I'm going to I'm working at this restaurant, and they called me the rock star. I was a really good employee. I was killing it, and they gave me a bottle of wine. One of the managers gave, I don't even think I was 21. They gave me a bottle of wine, and I knew I wasn't supposed to have that wine. I knew what happens when I try to just drink or just smoke weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sat in my.
Were you exposed to meetings? Is that why you knew?
No. I was exposed to meetings just a little bit. I think I'd even heard you speak before I went out to California. Yeah, wow. I was a little bit, but I knew from firsthand experience whenever I would, because I've been trying, I'm telling you, since I became addicted, I've been trying to stop. Like a week once I realized I was addicted, I was trying to stop. So I was trying every which way to stop. And so, yeah, within like that, like couple years or even year and a half that I found myself addicted to coke and opiates, prescription pills. I was trying to stop, and whenever I would try to just drink or just smoke weed, it would drive me into this. I have this addict mind where I can't control. Once I change my state of mind, I can't control when I'm going to stop or how much, the deal, or how much I'm going to use. So, yeah, I drank that wine, turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, and I'm in like suburban, like nice white San Diego area, and I walk up to the little gas station, and this guy offers me heroin. All right, let's be honest about the story. He offered me Suboxone, and I took the Suboxone, and I'm like, yeah, I need more, and so. The next day, I'm like, I know where to get it. So I go into Tijuana, Mexico.
You went to Tijuana?
Yeah. So, and dude, Tijuana, Mexico is crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Like, my story of addiction is like finding myself in these lows and being like, holy shit, like, this is bad. Like, this is as bad as it could possibly get. Wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and then like, holy shit, now it can never get worse than this. Wrong. Like, new lows led to new lows, led to new lows. And you know, you've heard it all. You've experienced it and done it. And yeah, so I'm going into Tijuana, and it's, dude, what an experience. Like, you should go to Tijuana. It's insane, bro. It is so insane. Like, no building code and like no traffic lights. Like, the first time I went in there, I'm on my scooter, I'm getting off the interstate exit, right? They don't really clean their roads very good with the oils, and there's oil all over this exit ramp. So I'm going 30 miles an hour turning off the exit ramp. And next thing you know, I'm literally sliding on oil on two wheels. I'm like, ah! And then I lay it down and slide, and like my knees all scraped up. And yeah, I pick myself up, and scooter still ran. And yeah, I hit the streets. I find a guy who kind of looks like me. I could tell, you know, and he was like, yeah, I can get you heroin. And he sold me it. And I'd never done heroin, right? I wanted some opiates, but they have $2.50 bags there. And like, dude, this bag was so strong that I was throwing up. I was like, yeah, so that started that, man. And then like, I was getting low on money, and I wanted to get 100% of the drug in my body. And these guys that had introduced me to the dealers, like in this place I was buying drugs from in Tijuana, was so crazy. Like, so, and it's like, it's just, the scene is so crazy of Tijuana.
Move that microphone a little closer.
The scene is so crazy of Tijuana. So prostitutes everywhere, transvestite prostitutes everywhere. I didn't see any, but like the guys, the American young kids who lived there were like, yeah, once a week there's shootouts in the streets between, like, you know, whatever in the army. But where I was buying the drugs from was an apartment complex that was all had barbed wire fence, and to get in, you went through one gate. So it was like a hallway. And so they would unlock this one, go through, unlock this one, let you in, lock that one, you walk through. And so like, people couldn't storm the place. You know what I mean? So it was pretty funny.
It was like a Mexican New Jack City.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that movie?
I haven't.
The Wesley Snipes.
No, I haven't seen it. So, but yeah, so it was just insane, man. And like, at the pharmacies there, you can buy needles, like no questions asked. And in California, you can too. In Jacksonville, it's hard to buy needles. I know. Obviously, I learned where to get them now. I'm not going to tell you guys in case but
clean needles is a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Dude, when I was in rehab, I read that whole book. It was like that thick. It was called Heroin. And I read everything about heroin and all the stats where in cities and states where they do clean needle. And yeah, they have lower rates of HIV than Jacksonville, places where they, like, the argument here is like, we don't want to enable them, right? But according to these stats, it lowers hepatitis. And I can speak from experience. I've shot up with a lot of dirty needles, man. A lot of dirty needles. And I got hep C. Luckily, I was able to get Harvoni to get it cleared. And thank God, you know, I don't have any other diseases, and you know, but that happens in addiction. I know a lot of people who do, and you know, luckily with modern medicine, you know, they're doing fine. So, but yeah, I was like, I want 100% of this drug, and this was a big, like, life-changing moment for me. Is when I started using drugs intravenously, and I watched a video. I didn't have those guys in Tijuana show me how. Because I had taken the drugs back to, I would smuggle the drugs, you know, back into the United States. And dude, the first time I did it, so they told me there's only one way, you know, put it in your ass. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, no problem. You know, I'm not like, it's just it's just $100 little, you know. Yeah. And dude, the first time after like doing it 3 times, right? They sent me through secondary, which is where they thoroughly search you. And they started picking apart my motorcycle. And I'm over here, I'm shaking. They know that I'm fucking shaking. I'm so nervous. They know But yeah, they
The
let
dog's
him
at
through.
like your
Yeah.
butthole.
Yeah, the dog's like looking, he's smelling all around. Like, yeah, but no, yeah, they were right. Because they told me, they were like, as long as you put it there, like they're not going to smell it, like you're good. So, but yeah, so I started doing that. But yeah, I got back to my house and my little apartment, and I watched the video on YouTube on how to shoot up. And
Good old YouTube.
Yeah, good old YouTube, man. Show you how to do anything.
You really can learn anything on here.
And yeah, so I do it, and dude, I immediately do too much. I OD right there. So I try to walk. I knew I did too much. I'm like, whoa. I try to walk it off. So I walk out, and last thing I remember is walking out my door. I woke up in the middle of the street. These guys lifting me up, and they're laughing because they think I'm too drunk. So they lift me up, and then yeah. So anyways, so that starts that, man. I start on this journey in my life of using intravenously, and from then on out, I would shoot everything and anything, and yeah, that just went down the dark. And like, I was such an idiot because you're bypassing your body's natural self defenses. Like, whereas if you take something through the liver, your body has many safeguards. When you go directly into the bloodstream, like I almost died so many times. Like, I've ended up in the hospital. I was good at staying out of jail, but I ended up in the hospital with MRSA infections in my bloodstream, where I almost lost my leg. I almost lost my right arm. So it just got like, I would weaken my immune system. I would shoot up with the dirtiest shit, dude. Like, oh my God, it was so bad. Like, whenever I was jonesing and I needed more, like, I'd be fiending and collecting like clear stuff, brown stuff, white stuff. Oh, that might be some coke, that might be some heroin, that might be some meth. And I'd put it in a spoon, and whatever broke down, I'd shoot it up. Like, absolute insanity. Like, absolute insanity. I've done that multiple times. Like, just insane. And yeah, even like, I was such a bad drug addict. Like, drug addicts, like lifelong drug addicts would be like, Parrish, you're insane. Yeah. You got a problem, dude. Like, yeah. So
yeah, that's
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. We was talking about that last week, where it was like, where other drug addicts are like, I think you need help.
Yeah, you need fucking help, dude. Yeah, I was that guy. So yeah, so California gets, I run out of money, run out of assets. I can't, my job is like on the brink of firing me. And I come back to Jacksonville, I get on. This was when Suboxone just came out. So I'm like, my dad had heard about it, so we get on it. Obviously, the doctor overprescribes me, says I need to be on it for a year at first. And so I'm taking it, but like, I'm not going to meetings. I'm abusing it. I'm selling it for coke. I'm using a lot of coke while I'm on it. And, we use everybody that ever cared about us. We use them, and we don't mean to. We love them, and they know, and they love us. But the power that addiction has on us, we can't help but to use them. And, I would live with friends and then not be able to pay rent. And, man, like I got an apartment with my buddy. I got evicted out of my one apartment in Creekwood, right? Because I would clean up and then I'd start using again and ruin that. And then I get an apartment with my buddy Sean Swope, and like, I love that guy. And I leave him high and dry. I can't pay rent. I decide I can't take Jacksonville anymore. Because
Jacksonville's the problem.
Yeah, Jacksonville's the problem. Yeah, and I was a big runner. You've heard some instances of my story, I assume. Well, you're gonna find that. But so I was able to get another scooter. Right, I like scooters, so I got a scooter in Tijuana or in San Diego. And now I got a scooter here in Jacksonville because I didn't have a license. I hadn't had a license in forever.
Yeah.
and I would ride these things without, the cops kind of let you slide if you're on a scooter, because I think there's like a 49cc law where if it's 49 cc's or less, right. I just heard that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You only have to have a learner's permit. That's what I was going to say. Even though the scooter I had was a 150cc scooter, I'm telling them it's a 49cc. But yeah, dude, like, I remember going to Walmart one night. I'm like, I'm out of here. So I go and steal a hiking bag, and I put some shit in it that I could use on my trip. I jerry rig it on my scooter, strap it all down, all sleeping bag. I look like a dumbass. And
sorry.
Yeah. And oh no, it gets worse. I take this scooter to Maine. So and there's a Florida tag on there. So I mean, once I cross the Mason-Dixon line, people, every time I'd be on the highway, people be going by me taking photos. I'm like, they thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And because like I had all this stuff strapped on it, and like the scooter only went 60. Yeah. Right? Semis go like 65, 70. So I'm riding coming, and it's blowing me everywhere. Like, insane, man. Yeah. I mean, I wrote. Do you know how long it takes to get to Maine? That's a lot of fucking driving. Dude. Yeah. I mean, I would take back roads a lot too. Half the time I rode smaller roads, half the time I rode 95. Because like the roads get so twisted up that you got to take the interstate.
Yeah.
But I did, in between there, I worked at a hippie commune where I was like the guy who cleaned up the shit.
What's a hippie commune?
The Hostel in the Forest, baby. Yeah, y'all check it out. It's in Brunswick, Georgia. It's called the Hostel in the Forest.
What is it?
It's a hostel. You know, you're familiar with a hostel?
I know what a hostel is.
Like, there's a lot in Europe. There's a lot in America. It's where travelers can stay for cheap. So you got to go there with your girl. Check it out. You can take the kid too.
Is it a place? It doesn't sound like a place.
It's awesome.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Awesome. It's awesome. Right. Yeah. They got tree houses with electric, these nice geodesic domes. They got a big lake. They got like this man-made spring swimming pool, a garden. They have dinners every night. It's really cool. It's far out. Yeah. So I stumbled upon that place, and then I worked there for 3 months, and then and I was I was able to kind of clean up there. I met a lot of good people there. Like I met so many cool people, political activists, teachers, world travelers, people from around the world, hippies. It was really cool, and they did a lot of like interesting workshops there, like healing workshops, instrument workshops, a bunch of weird hippie shit too. Like, so I kind of got to open my mind to some of these other cultures and people. So I thought it was really cool. And so working there, you get to meet everybody. So eventually I ran my time there, and oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was always the last one there drinking. I was, you know what I mean? I'd be throwing up at 2:00 when everybody's kind of settling down. Anyways, yeah, so we get back on the scooter, and I make every time, like, I made resolutions to stop fucking using and drinking, right? And I would go to new towns on my trek up north. I was kind of traveling side by side with these other friends, but we would kind of meet up at different locations. And yeah, so I remember making these resolutions every town and every city to stop, and failing every time. And I had a bad night in Washington, D.C., and I just went out to drive around. I had no intentions of using. I had some money in my pocket because I would fly a sign to say painter needs work. I had my cut pot, brush, roller, and grid. And and people would hire me. Most of the time, it wasn't even painting, just like for general labor. So yeah, you fly a sign. I was never I'm not downing anybody, but I was never a give me money guy.
Yeah.
I need food. Like, I fly a sign and need work, and go work for the day, for 5-6 hours. And that would give me enough gas and enough food to go on to the next town. And yeah, man, Washington, D.C., I met this guy, and was like, yeah, let's get a 50 a crack. Next thing I know, we're smoking in like this old public housing in Washington, D.C. I'm spending all my money. I can't stop. I had like $300, but spent all that, and then, they stole my laptop. I have a problem with trusting people sometimes, and like I left my laptop there while I went out, and anyways,
it's gone.
Yeah. So yeah, and I remember finding myself made it all the way to Maine. We went to Maine to do some kayaking and we did. So I was able to kind of leave leave everything, and we went sea kayaking halfway up the Maine coast from Blue Hill, Maine to Bar Harbor, and it was like a 5-day trip. It was pretty epic.
Kayaking?
Yeah.
5 days.
Sea kayaks. Yeah. They're long kayaks. They're pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we went. It was beautiful, dude. I saw so many like cliffy, like the oceans there are very cliffy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, and looking back on it, like it was, I see it in my head probably a lot bigger than they actually were. But just,
No, yeah, I've seen pictures.
just beautiful cliffs.
Beautiful.
Oh man, and these beautiful, like there were a lot of island cliffy islands with these houses on them. It was far out.
Yeah.
So yeah, really beautiful place, man. Yeah, and then after that's done, I needed some parts for my scooter. I called my dad, asked him for money. He gives me like $50, and instead of buying the part for my scooter, I buy some heroin that was fake, right? And I'm shooting up in a bathroom in Maine, and just like I can't get away from it, dude. So I come back to Jacksonville. I make it back to Jacksonville
On that scooter?
I made it. No, it ended up.
Yeah.
Like I rode that thing to it literally could not go anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I come back to Jacksonville and always get a little bit iffy here.
Pull that mic up a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I like end up I think living in my stepbrother's garage. I live there for a little bit and then get an apartment with some of my closer childhood friends who were able to trust me again until, you know, I go on another run and I go on another run and I have the rent money. They all paid me the rent money in cash to pay the rent, and it was like $1,600. And I go on another coke run, and I'm stuck in a trap house. My phone's off. I'm disappeared for a couple weeks, and no one can get a hold of me. And you know, to think myself out of this hole that I dug myself in, I need to get nice and high, and then I'll think of a genius plan to get myself out of this hole, right? You ever do that? That's like the story of my, like, be like, all right, I know I'm fucked, but let me just get my mind right. Let me get some of this in me, and I'll think of something. So anyways, I finally get out of that. Like, I owed a bunch of people money, like, you know, just like I wanted to kill myself, man. And my dad gets me into a halfway house out at the beach, and that's when the first time they really started to kind of take us to AA meetings. And you know, when I was a kid, when I was 16, and I was driving by Penman, right, and my buddy says, the AA clubhouse, my buddy starts to roll down the window to hang out the window. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like this AA clubhouse up here. So he takes his beer, he's like, woohoo! He's screaming out the window. Yeah. And I thought that was so funny. So I would do that every time we passed Penman. And like most of the time we were drunk, and we would scream out the window at them. Yeah. And they, you know, they thought it was funny.
See you in a few
years.
years.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. Dude, like that guy ended up dying of an overdose. And like I am an active member at Penman.
Yeah.
Or not member, but whatever.
Yeah.
Active attendee. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so we were going to a halfway house out at the beach, and that was the first taste I got of AA, and I was like, okay, these guys are cool, like I'm hearing some of that, but it's like none of that is like, these guys take it too seriously. Like, I know that I can control my drinking, and recovery is not the most important thing, right? Money in my career, that's the most important thing. That's like where my state of mind was. Even though like I had this major drug problem that crippled me over and over and over again, it's like that. And what we've learned today is like especially in the beginning, like obviously we have other priorities, and like you got a kid, we got things going on too, but we still keep that recovery very important in our lives. And I didn't get that at the time. You know, I just hadn't quite had enough pain yet. And so it's like, yeah, money is most important. So I was neglecting my getting into the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, because that's the fellowship that they were bringing us to. So I ended up getting into and like the people who've heard my story have heard this 100 times, so I hate telling it, but I'm going to tell it anyways.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
Yeah. So
and the people listening haven't heard it.
Heard it either. Yeah. So I got into an argument with this guy, the halfway house owner, and like, you know, because I wasn't quite following all the rules. He wanted us to sign these papers on the wall. It's like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know what that is. Like, no, and plus no one had explained it to me. So I was like, yeah, whatever. Like I went to a meeting. I'm sober. You know, The thing is, like, grown men sometimes we're like, we don't want to follow these rules in a halfway house. It's like we're grown men. I don't want to.
Realizing you're a grown man in a halfway house.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the last time I went to a halfway house when I got sober, I followed all the rules. I said, you just don't kick me out, please. I followed all the rules. Well, yeah.
That's perfect if you leave it right there.
So, so we get into an argument, and he was trying to say I wasn't going to stay sober. And I was going to stay sober. I meant it. And so the argument escalated to where we shook on a $10,000 bet that I would stay sober for 10 years like he was. And we shook on that. And so I leave the halfway house a week later, and I think that it's a good idea to go stay at the In-Town Suites, because that's really the only place I had to go. Staying at another halfway house wasn't an option because I don't need that shit. And I think that it's morally okay to go to a couple NA meetings. And this is when I started going to, and like one a week, and sell coke. A little middleman. Sorry, I was never a good drug dealer, but I would middleman coke because this guy would pay me really well. And that ended up buying it from a druggie where he's like, this is not good coke. So I tasted it, right? And so I got this like barely any shitty coke in my mouth, and like that's just an allergy right there. I'm driving home, and I don't fucking drive home. Where I drive to the drug dealer, man. I drive to the drug dealer, and here we go again. And like I had this little car that my grandma had helped me buy, and here we go again. I go on another run, and I'm next thing I know, I'm like living on my friend's trailer way out on the west side, like right on the edge of the Jacksonville city county line. And I'm living on the floor. I'm drinking at that bar called Fat Boys, and my car gets stolen. I don't have any money. I don't even have a cell phone. And like it happened to come, I think it was April 20th, 2014. And I end up going on a sober streak. The longest sober streak I had ever gone on up until then. And like, I remember I did like 5 months one time, and I got the flu, and I'm like, oh, I was so sick. I'm like, what would help me? You know what they give people who are in a lot of pain? Lortab. So this is an acceptable time to take a Lortab. Here we go again. But so I ended up, I told this story 100 times. So there was this one guy who would still employ me, and I'm a painter, right? We're pretty like a rough group, right?
Yeah.
A lot of drug addict, alcoholic painters. So, but I became pretty unemployable, pretty unreliable. But there was this one guy, Mike, who would hire me, and I would take 2, sometimes 3 buses to work, and 2, sometimes 3 back home. And eventually I was able to get my bike out of pawn and ride the bike to the bus, and after 2 or 3 months, I got a job offer, and I'm sober. By the way, no meetings. Sorry, should I say clean?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm used to saying sober. So I'm clean and sober for a couple months, and I get this job offer to travel around the country doing commercial painting and getting paid a lot of money. For me, it was a lot of money at the time. So I do it. So I do that. I'm basically working the whole time. I mean, working 14-hour shifts, and then going to the hotel and sleeping. Work, and these other guys that I worked with, they were using, even the foreman would be using sometimes too. He would like to smoke crack. He was one of those people who could smoke crack a couple nights a week and be fine and not just burn everything to the ground. But I focused, and so eventually I got tired of just some of the bullshit that was going on with management, and I was like, I'm focused now. I'm thinking money. Like, I want my own crew. I'm setting some like demands. Like, I want to sub through the big company myself. And I didn't get that opportunity, but I did come back to Jacksonville, and I got my own apartment. I had an eviction. I had to, like I said, when I'm using or when I'm sober and clean, like we can convince people like we're a stand-up guy. And I was able to convince the owner of the house that, yeah, that's an old eviction. Like it was a mistake. And he rented me out the house. And here comes my anniversary, 420, and a year later. And I'm like, I had this idea, like after a year, I can drink and drug responsibly. The original plan was I was just going to drink and drug once a year. Right?
Yeah.
And listen to this.
It's like a cheat day.
Yeah, listen to this. Like this is the truth. This is the truth of the plan. I was gonna use on that anniversary day, stay clean and sober for a whole nother year. Use on that anniversary day. You use stay sober for a whole nother year. And what I was gonna do is I would be able to tell people and my dad that I've been sober 5 years in a row. And that's the truth, because I stayed sober technically 5 years consecutively. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's like a loophole that I found. I'm so obsessed, man. But like, once it got high, right?
Yeah.
12 o'clock comes around where I'm supposed to stop, and it's like, I ain't stopping. I'm just going to manage it this time. So yeah, and
who cares what my dad thinks?
Yeah. So it wasn't but a couple months later where I was depleting all that money out of my bank account, and here we go again, letting everybody down one more time. And this would go on, like I said, I used for a total of 8 or 9 years total, like heavily. And this last 2 years would go on, would be just like the most pitiful. Like it was like, I always tell people this, it was like 100 years in hell. Like the days were so long, the nights were so long. I'd given up on my life. Like at this point, like it just got so bad so quick. And I'd met this girl, and I love this girl, Christine. She's in prison now. And we just got along so well, and she could party like I could. Like she loved to use all the drugs I liked. I started doing meth at this time too. So now I'm doing fentanyl and meth. Those are my two combos, right? And I don't know if you saw on Facebook that picture. Did you see that picture I posted on my anniversary where I'm skinny as a rail? Yeah, that's when I first started doing meth, dude. I was so skinny, bro. And yeah, so, and I would just get so reckless. This is when I was like shooting up, just like whatever. Like this girl would sell her body, and I would go steal copper or scrap metal. Eventually, like it wasn't but like 3 months later, I was getting kicked out of that house that I got because I couldn't pay rent. And I just remember selling like the furniture, like this and this together for $20, for $10, for one more hit. Everything that I had acquired over that year had to go. And that's how it always was for me. Like everything must go. I'm selling everything to get more. Like, yeah, I've lost so much stuff. Like guitars. Like my dad's a really good musician, and he's given me like 5 guitars, and they've all gone. But yeah, man, I just remember that getting so bad. We started living out of her van, and with no tag, no license, and I was good at not staying out of jail. This is when I like got really sick. I had a lot of overdoses, ODs. I woke up in the hospital one time with this is a funny story, with somebody else's name on my arm. This wasn't my name, but I know the guy. I actually know that first girl I dated. Me and her brother were born on the same day, at almost the same time, and our social security numbers are one number apart of everybody in the country. Yeah, our social numbers are, the last digit is one number apart. So I accidentally was mumbling, and I told him the wrong social, and they put his thing.
Purposefully.
I didn't. He thinks I did it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. Yeah, that's funny. I think he really does think I did it on purpose, but no, it was a mistake. But yeah, so like a lot of ODs, man. Like I remember having this moment where these cops pulled us over and they searched the car and they found our needles but no drugs, and they were like, we go to a overdose death every day. And they were like looking at us like with real compassion and concern. It was a female cop, and she looked me right in the eye. She was like, every day we go to one, every day. And yeah, I remember she meant that. And we look at the stats now. Did you know in 2021 we had 538 overdose deaths in Jacksonville alone?
Wow,
that's insane.
Yeah,
that's fucking insane.
Yeah, that's just the deaths.
That's just the deaths.
Yeah.
We're averaging 450 a year in Jacksonville now. Now we're averaging that. So it's like the number one killer of our and we've lost how many? I know we're in different fellowships, but like it's like unfathomable how many people I know. Like a guy that asked me to be the best man at his wedding overdosed in debt. He's gone. So it's just so popular these days. And yeah, it almost happened to me 100 times. So let's try to fast forward here. So I remember we were like, somebody told us about the methadone clinic, and I was like, I was done trying to get sober at this point. I'd given up on my life. I was like, I'm going to go to the bitter ends. I don't know if my dog, my pet dog, got hit by a car. It was like the love of my life. I know it sounds silly, but like it was the coolest dog ever. And I remember after Coda died, I was like, I'm definitely not getting. Definitely, we're going to take this to the bitter ends now. I was already going to take it to the bitter ends, but and that's not who I was. Like I had big dreams when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, like I was like, I'm somebody. Like I'm gonna be somebody one day. Like I'm gonna do like. If I told you some of the dreams I had, you'd probably laugh at me. So, but I had some big dreams. Yeah. So I had some big dreams, and like to find myself where I was in 2016, 17. Like, yeah. So anyway, so we go into the methadone clinic off of Park and Forest. And they would give you, we heard they were giving out free methadone if you qualified. And we're like, we fucking qualify. We don't fucking have any job. So perfect. So we're like, no job. And they're like, all right, you qualify for free methadone. So we would go into the methadone clinic every day, get free methadone. Like, just with all the other, it was like just this. God bless those people, but we were a bunch of losers going there every day, picking cigarette butts off the ground. Once a week, the cops would come arrest somebody. We were just a bunch of winners, right? Yeah. And it was just sad sitting in that line every single day of my life, getting there, rain, sleet, snow, or shine. And like, I couldn't even look myself in a mirror. Like if I saw a mirror, I couldn't even look at myself. No one. There was a rumor going because I had almost died a couple times. There was a rumor going around that I was dead. We went to Walmart and this couple, me and Christine, we saw another using couple, and they said, "Oh shit, I thought you were dead." And I remember just like having this Twilight Zone moment because we don't know what happens after death, right? I'm like, no, I'm alive. But I thought about it later. I'm like, am I fucking dead? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I thought about it. Am I fucking... Because obviously there was no one else in my life. All it was Christine and the drug world. And I was like, man, maybe I'm dead. Maybe I'm... But yeah. So
is this the afterlife? Yeah. Just continuing on this shitty path?
So I think I'm alive today. I'm not 100% sure. But
you're alive.
Okay. Yeah. But it was just real bad. And I remember, like I said, going to that methadone clinic every day. And we were living out of that van. We would get in pretty gnarly fights, right? Like, I never thought that, let's just leave it at that. One time we got in a fight. We were staying at this, and meth makes you crazy, especially girls. Meth makes girls crazy. Yeah. And I'm not crazy, right? Yeah. At least I would get a little crazy, especially staying up. Like, dude, I can't leave out this story. So I stayed up for 8 or 9 days straight. It was when I first started doing meth, and like, cause it put a shock on my body, and I would stay up for, it was about 9 days straight, and I wasn't drinking water. And so after that, I would pass out, and I would do this for those couple years. I would stay up for a really long time and then crash for 48 hours hard, where I had to buy a special alarm clock that was really loud to wake up, and it still wouldn't wake me up. So once I was out, I was out. And I know how powerful that is, because when Christine would go into hibernation, you could slap her and she would out.
Hibernation?
Yeah, absolute hibernation, bro. And so yeah, I had stayed up for that many days, and I woke up from that long hibernation. I had water, I was not doing nothing. And I noticed that there was something wrong with my head, though. I thought that it would clear up, but I was super lightheaded, and my vision was blurry. I couldn't think right. I was like, I just need some more sleep, and drinking water. And after 3 days, my mind wasn't back to normal. After 4 days, it wasn't. And now I'm getting a little scared. And then after 5, now I'm like, oh no, I've literally, I'm retarded. I might have had a mini stroke, because my brain, you know what I mean? My brain wasn't getting oxygen and nutrients and water.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even, I remember just not even being able to focus or to think right, to research it online, what's happening to me. And I just remember being in this, I remember just crying and being so hopeless. Like I've ruined, there was no one I could talk to. I was just like, you've done it now, Paris. Like because my brain was fried, and I couldn't even think. Oh man, I was just so alone and so hopeless. You know that the books talk about, we'll know loneliness and despair very, like no one else, or some shit. And yeah. But luckily, after 10 days, I started to come out of that. And yeah. But no matter how hard we get beat down, right, we go back to it. Yeah. God, we won't do this again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're good now. We'll do it again. You got me out of that. Maybe you'll get me out of that. So, yeah, man, I'm just so hard-headed. But, yeah, and like I said, the hospital thing, dude, I almost lost my left leg. I still have trouble with it today. But that MRSA curled up in my joint, and I would go to the hospital and be like, please help me. But if they wouldn't give me painkillers immediately, after 5 hours, I'm like, I'm out of here. So it took me literally unable to walk. My dad had to carry me downstairs just to get into the hospital. And I had to learn to walk again, right? I was so depressed, so dark spot there, because I'm an athlete, and I'm like, I'll never be able to run again, maybe never walk again. They were talking about amputating my leg. I'm like, you ain't fucking, that's not happening. Yeah, right. Well,
I'll drag this fucking thing around with me if exactly. I have to.
Well, if the infection, MRSA, you know what MRSA is? It's a bacteria that the antibiotics, right, can't fight it.
It's resistant to it. Yeah.
It's like an evolved bacteria.
Methicillin resistance, blah, blah, blah.
I read some articles that it may be a big problem in the future if we don't come up with antibiotics that can fight it. But I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, I was good at staying out of jail. So let's fast forward this, man. It got so bad that we're living out of that van, and I got an offer to go into a treatment center at River Region. So I tell Christine, I show her the paper. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna let me in. I qualify. And she read it. She threw it back at me. She said, it sounds like fucking jail. I'm like, look, because I'm thinking about robbing a bank. I'm just going crazy. I'm getting tired too, dude. I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
Right. It's very fucking tiring doing that shit.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. Some of these new people, dude, this is the easier way, man. Aren't you tired? That shit's so much work, bro. Yeah. This is a lot easier life. Sobriety is just so much easier, right? It's hard. I mean, and life is hard enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paying bills, working. It's but I was thinking last night in my warm bed. I don't know if you think about this, but every time it's really cold out, I'm like, I feel bad for all the drug addicts out there. Yeah. I've been outside. So just grateful for my warm bed sometimes and my heater, electric bills. So I go into that rehab, and this is the thing. They kept the rehab was, and you're familiar with this, that the rehabs keep you on the methadone.
Yeah.
And they tell you that even the people, and this is my beef that I have against them. The people who say, "Hey, I want off this," we encourage them to get off of it. The people who say, "No, I'm not ready, I don't want to," then we keep them on it. But don't deprive those people who want true freedom of that opportunity. That's where I got a real fucking problem with these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that, because, and you've heard about it, what they're doing at Gateway. They're saying, "No, you need to be on this." It's like, fuck you. So it's for some people, and it's definitely not for some people. And we know I believe in being free.
Totally abstinent.
Yeah. Because that's where you're going to be the most happy, and that's where I've seen personally where people are the most happy. That inner kid comes back out, and I've seen them have successful sobriety. So, anyways, they wouldn't let me get off the methadone. They wouldn't let me taper down from the methadone, right? And I pleaded with them. And so I'm like trying to do it myself. And so whenever I would take it, I would just try to do it a little bit. And and they monitor you. They watch you take it.
Yeah.
So anyways, when I get out of there after like 50 days, and like I thought it was really cool. Like NA and AA would come in to do the H&I there, and that's where I started to really feel the message, was the H&I guys. Because the H&I guys, I love those guys. Let's just say that. Like those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm an H&I guy today. Like I love that shit. And it, it means a lot to me. So when I get out, I'm like, I can get off this methadone, no problem. So I go into Gateway Detox after I leave treatment. I go for 10 days, and it puts my body into shock, right? I don't sleep after, like, once full withdrawal started, 3 days in.
Because it takes a little while.
Yeah, because methadone is such a strong, So after 3 days, once I hit full withdrawals, dude, oh boy. And I didn't sleep for the rest of the and like, this is just another example of like issues with incompetent doctors at Gateway and other treatment centers around the world. If somebody is coming off full withdrawals off of methadone and Suboxone, they need a benzo at night to help them sleep, not get them super fucked up, but they need a light, like a Klonopin. And they don't give a fuck. They're like, "No, we're not giving you nothing." It's like and I started to go crazy. When you stay up for 7 days, especially without meth or coke or whatever, I was losing my mind. I was starting to lose my mind, and my body was in major shock. So, but I tough it out. I go to Java. By the way, I had been to Java before when I was younger. I had all my stuff there. They say I got the shortest stay record at Java. I show up with all my stuff. I remember looking around at those guys, and I was like, I just started, I had some tears coming down, like in private. I'm like, and I was just thinking in my head, I ain't like these guys. I'm not like these fucking losers. Yeah. And that's really what I thought in my head. I'm like, I'm not like these losers.
Yeah.
And so I left like literally 5 minutes in. But so after I leave Gateway for 10 days, they didn't want to keep me longer than 10 days. And let me say, like, that's one of the things I advocate for in Gateway, which is why they should maybe consider putting me on the board. That's my ego. I don't mean this, but I would like to help. But do y'all have a proper system to detox people from methadone and Suboxone? And like 10 days isn't quite going to do it. Like I said, there's a proper procedures that we need to put in place and they do have some that they say for Suboxone. But, I came in there to withdraw from methadone, and they had no plan for me. It was cold turkey, and I didn't want to take more. I didn't want to get on Suboxone. Obviously, that was my path. But anyway, so let's speed this up. So I go to Java. I'm still going through it very bad. Like, usually off of heroin and fentanyl withdrawals, 8 days of nothing, you're like, oh, finally, I'm clear.
Yeah.
About 7-8 days, you're like you can finally like start to sleep. You're not obviously 100%, but like you're like, okay, like I see the light now.
Yeah.
But with methadone and Suboxone, dude, like it takes 3 months. I wouldn't know, because here's the story. So after 30 days, I still cannot sleep, dude. I'm going crazy. I was able to sleep just a little bit, but like only like an hour spurts here and there. And so what I did was I went to the head shop and I took some kratom. And just a little bit. I didn't it got me just like a little buzz, but oh my God, I laid down and I could sleep. So the next night I did it again. The next night I did it again. And I don't know where this switch came on in my mind, but I decided to do meth. And heroin.
Because you started that cycle.
Yeah, it started that. It fucked up my rhythm. And so I go and pick up, and I fucking OD in a shed, my friend's shed, and I called Jeff. I don't want to name last name. I called the manager at Java, and I'm like, "Hey man, I fell asleep," because it was like 12:30. Like I fell. It's like, yeah, you're not allowed back here. Come get your stuff tomorrow. I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
It's like, man, and dude, at this point, like my dad was like, you're fucking done. Yeah, I would let everybody down over and over. Anyways, so I go on another run, man. And again, and like I know I've said that I've like fucked up, and like that's not even covering 10% of it. I've fucking relapsed so many times trying this. So yeah, I go on another run, and I decided to do that. I'd have no options here, so I'd go back on that commercial painting crew around the country, that same one that drugged. But this time I ain't sober. This time I'm using with those guys, and we're drinking and we're smoking crack in every city. I'm trying to get heroin whenever I could. Oh, by the way, Christine got arrested for armed robbery. She's now in jail. And I remember being in Kansas City, Missouri. We had this big job. It was super cold, and all I needed was $2,000 saved up to bail her out before Christmas. And I love this girl, and I wanted to get her out to at least spend Christmas before she got sentenced. I couldn't even put together $2,000 for her, and like for someone that I loved. Like you know what I mean? I couldn't do it for me, and I couldn't even do it for her. And I just remember to wake up in the morning in Kansas City doing that job, it took every bit of it took so much energy just to get out of bed. Like I just remember being such in a low place, man. So like I could not stop. And we go to San Diego again. Our job takes us to San Diego. By the way, I didn't know you could. I learned in San Diego that you can go on Google and type in where to buy heroin in San Diego. I swear to God, I did this, and I came across this Google thread, right, with like thousands of comments, and some guy had his number there, and I fucking texted him, right out with him about heroin, because I couldn't go, because with the job, I couldn't go to Tijuana, so yeah, so.
Woodpecker.
Yeah. I was like, that's not my phone. So yeah, so I'm, obviously I've been back to using, and now I've stopped even taking Christine's call. And like, I wanted to kill myself. And I get fired from that job. Really, I just couldn't wake up. One morning I could not get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. And so I go to stay with my other friend in Ventura, California, and take a train up there. And you may have met him, Wes. You ever met Wes?
I'm not sure.
So, I shouldn't have said his name, because what I'm about to say is very...
Don't say it.
Yeah. Fuck. It's kind of an important part of the story. It's not that important. And we were up to some criminal activity. Okay. And he was a very good criminal. Well, he's in jail now.
Yeah,
so he's
not
not
that great.
but he's a pretty good one. He's he's the best criminal I've ever met. And so yeah, I was rolling with him. I would try to work, and just like eventually I had no place to, like, we were living on his aunt's couch in Ventura, and just using it every day, man. And like whatever, like I would find little odd jobs on Craigslist, just like, it was awful. So sorry, I'm about to wrap up here as far as the story, and then we'll go 5 minutes into some of the good shit. So yeah, I eventually I go to a detox there,
mm-hmm.
and it's
in Ventura.
Yeah, in Ventura, and it was a non-medical detox. You ever heard about these?
Last week, somebody shared that they went to a non-medical detox. I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, you think, like, I thought Gateway was bad, dude. Like, this fucking dump. Like, bro, the toilets didn't work. Like, they barely flushed. The showers didn't work. The beds were so jacked. Because, like, heroin's a big problem in California. It's a big problem everywhere. But for some reason, I feel like the bigger problem there. And like the beds were so jacked, guys were sleeping on the floor because the beds were just so messed up. And because when you're withdrawing from opiates, you kick a lot, you shake a lot.
Yeah,
that's how I do. The best detox I ever did was I went on a 3-day hike where I walked the whole time. That's a little thing I want to do for people to help them get off of opiates, is do a hike. So I think, we'll get into that in the future maybe. But yeah, so I get out of that detox, and like I did 5 days there, and it was so hard, right? Because I was really bad. And I go back to my buddy's house, Wes's house, and he leaves, and he left a little bit like in one of the washes, and I did some, and like I just couldn't stop
again.
Yeah. And then I did some meth. And so, like, this is a big turning point in my life. I can't explain it. I don't believe, like, when people say God taught, like, I don't believe none of that shit. But I had a white light, like this, something happened to me where, like, and yeah, I was high, but I came to these, like, conclusions on that couch. It was a couple days before I got sober, so I'm about to get sober here, and I came to a couple of conclusions. One of them, I was like, oh shit, that's a lie that they've been telling these people. Which is, you want to say it?
What's that?
You follow me on social media.
Oh yeah, I don't care, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I like. This circumcision thing hit me for some reason. It fucking hit me right there. And ever since then, I've investigated it more and more, and it's like been shown more insanity in that practice that we do. But we're not going to talk about that on here. But you can talk to me about it in person. I'd love to talk to you about it. Trust me. But and also, like, I just knew that this was the end. This was the end for me. I was done. I was going to get sober, and I take a Greyhound. I was owed a little check for some work I did, bought a gram of heroin, got on the Greyhound bus. Dude, I've taken Greyhound buses several times. Taking a Greyhound bus on heroin is like the most leisure fucking, oh my God. Like, I've taken Greyhound buses withdrawing. It's awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like the easiest California to Jacksonville Greyhound bus ride. Oh my God, it was so chill. And I come back to Jacksonville. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to stay at my dad's house. Fuck no. And they dropped me off at Gateway Detox, March 1st, 2018. And I just remember, like, I looked like death. I wasn't talking to anybody. My soul was dead. I didn't care about nothing. And I went in there, and I was so tired, dude. I was tired of fighting. I couldn't go one more day. I was gonna die, or God was gonna save me, or something. Like, and I just remember I sat in that very back shower. This is when they let you shower whenever you wanted. They don't let you do that now. You gotta shower at certain times. But that shower saved me, dude. Because when I would be shaking, like, I would just sit in that shower, But I remember sitting in that back shower and just like, God, please help me. God, please help me. I would fucking say that over and over. And yeah, so I did like my own little 1, 2, and 3 there, you know. And I had faith that God was gonna guide me. That God was gonna like, because I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm done. Like I will do everything. Right.
Yeah.
So you know, the H&I people kind of inspired me on like the path. I knew that there was recovery, and I was gonna go. My plan was to go to NA and like be an active member in NA because I was such a hardcore IV drug user. It's like I don't want to relate, and it's funny. Like I'll talk about that really quick. Like I'll go in and hear these grandmas talk about their only alcohol addiction, and it's the same as mine. Like even when I read Bill's story, like you've read Bill's story, right? Mm-hmm. It's like our same story. It's just so it's we know it's the same fucking disease of like so. And alcohol is a drug, as they say. And yeah. So anyways, and I'll talk about what happened with AA in a minute. So. Yeah, so I surrendered. I finally was like, okay, and I heard you share about this last night in one of your podcasts. You said my plan was just to stay sober for a year. Like that was my goal. And that was mine too. It's like, I'm not thinking about, and I don't like, that's in God's hand. I heard a speaker say that, like, I don't know if I'm going to stay sober forever. Occasionally I'll have thoughts, right? Maybe like we could party again one day, but that's in God's hands. Like I said, I gave it to God that day. And I'm still giving it to God. So, but yeah, my goal was like, I can get a year. Like, let's fucking get a year. I did it before. Let's fucking get a year. But like, I knew, and whenever I did that year sober, like in the end, I was so lonely and so miserable. Like, we know us in the middle of recovery, man, we have a full life. Right? Yeah. Like, and like I got in this shit, dog. Like, the group of friends I have today are just so fucking. Like, I cry sometimes. Think like, dude, we got such a tight crew, dude. Like we go on these annual trips now, man. Like we all watch UFC and poker together. Yeah. Like it's like we have just, and I know you do. You got the same thing. Like just like you get in here and you take it seriously, right? But not too seriously, where you're a Grinch, we like to have fun, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna meet the friends who come from the same pits of hell that you come from, and we're doing this life thing, man. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful process.
And you get to experience it to the fullest. Yeah. It's not like watered down by like remembering half of the shit you done. If you do get to do something exciting when you're using, like when you're clean and you're just like experiencing all the feelings and emotions and stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah, and it's a new thing. Like how long?
15.
Holy shit! Yeah. Are you serious? Yeah. Oh my god, legend. So like my first, like this is for me, like this first 5 years. Actually, the 5th year now has been like not learning, but I would say the first 4 years was learning who I was, like learning how to go through these slumps, right? These low times, and not pick up over it. Like life ain't fucking easy, like right? That's what I've had to come to. Like I'm gonna have times of depression, of loneliness, of lowness, of low energy. And it's like, that's just normal, right? I used to think that like, and I think maybe us addicts suffer from depression a little more than most people, right? I think that. But yeah, it's just learning my emotions, learning how to go through low times, yeah, so it's been a journey. Like, because I try to tell that to some of these new people, it's like they'll go through some low depression times and they'll fucking cry about it and pick up. It's like, no, motherfucker, stay the course. Like, pain is part of life. Like isn't it like the Buddhists and the Hindus, they say that like once you are aware, conscious that life is suffering, then you can live above it. Some shit like that.
Yeah.
So, and like, so let's go back to detox. Like I read Bill's story in there, and I've always I strayed away from religion, but I always believed in God, and that's why I like love the outline of NA and AA. It's like the higher power of our own conception, and I think that's so beautiful, man. I think that's like, so that's what's like I was able to pray to just call it God, whatever created the reality and world we're in. And I have my own kind of thoughts on that too, but yeah, so they wouldn't let me in next door. I wanted to go, but I knew God. I knew like it's fine. Like God has me, and everything worked out. Right, everything worked out. I went to a halfway house, and this was better because I feel like I was in there. I was able to kind of. I think I probably wouldn't have liked the gateway residential, but even though I do always advise people to go into residential, they didn't give me nothing in that detox, and I didn't ask for nothing. This was right when they transitioned to, this was right after I got out. It's when their funding came in for Suboxone, where they could give it to everybody for free. And I just missed it. And maybe I would have took that in there. Maybe I would have. I don't know. I want to say no, I would have, because I wanted this. I fucking wanted this.
Yeah.
You got to, I had to want this. I really wanted this. So where are we at? So
you get out of detox.
Yeah. And, I wanted to say one story about detox. I was going through the withdrawals. It was really bad. I couldn't sleep. It's late at night. So they shut that TV off at 10 o'clock. So I'm like walking around the place at 2:30, 3 a.m. Can't sleep. I'm going crazy. And one of the nurses has that TV on. And she's not supposed to have that on. She has that big, in detox, that big TV they have there in the living room. And it was playing this meditative music, very hypnotic, beautiful music, with this HD drone footage showing beautiful parts of the world, dude, all different parts of the world. And I was mesmerized by it. And suddenly I sat down on that couch, and after watching it for 10 minutes, I'm like, my withdrawal, I haven't even noticed my withdrawals. My withdrawals went away. Because I'm seeing like such beauty in the world. And I'm like, dude, you are like in this fucking scrubs again, right?
Yeah.
And there's this whole world out there. And I was just reminded that like you could spend 100 lifetimes where all you do is explore this planet and you won't be able to see it all, right? There's so much out there. And obviously I haven't done the best. I'm pretty tight in Jacksonville. I have done some traveling, but we're going to get there. Well, if it's God's will, we'll get there. So, but yeah, I just thought that was cool, man, to be like, and I think we should put that same thing in detoxes more, because it helps, it inspires the people. Don't forget, like, there's a big world out there. And like I said, I swear to God, it took away my withdrawals. Getting a little headache from talking so much, but, okay. So I go to halfway house after that. I go to, City House. What do you think about City House?
Yeah. I haven't been there in forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was first coming around, I was like hitting all those places up, doing meetings and stuff.
Yeah. It's like, dude, that first year, like you were probably like me, right? Like fucking everywhere. I went to 3 meetings a day. I was doing that shit. Yeah. So and that really is what that's why we tell people in their first year, you fucking get in the middle. You go to meetings every day. You got to meet your tribe. You got to meet your people. So. And that's what I started to do. I went to City House, and like, dude, there was people who died over there, right? And City House is a great, great halfway house. And I love it because some of these other halfway houses, like off of Kernan and shit, it's like what I was able to do at City House, I could walk to Alco. What's the one right there on 2nd Street? The NA club, where they have all the NA meetings right there. You know what I'm talking about, right where the pool is.
Deep. No.
Yeah,
the deep
right there. I would go there. I would go to Alumni House, and so with City House being right there, it's like I was able to walk to a meeting every day, dude. I walked to a meeting every day, and like I started to hear the message of recovery, and for me, I just found that like AA. Because I was going to Alco every day, I just kind of gravitated towards AA, and I started to hear people share about, like, these goons were sharing about drugs every time. So I'm like, oh shit, this might as well be a drug addicts meeting. So so I just kind of, and then I started to go to this powerful men's group called From the Heart. You've probably heard of it, right? From the Heart. It's a big men's group, but we've split up now. So now that it's split, but it's split. The meeting's called Spiritual Nights. I I did not vote on that name. Shame on you guys for voting on that name. It's such a stupid name. Spiritual Knights.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I don't like it. I proposed Duval Men's Group. I thought that was great, but because it's on Sunday morning, it's like right before the game. Everybody's usually always in their JAG gear for the meeting. Anyways, I was like, I'm gonna leave because they didn't vote on there. I'm like salty about it, but I keep coming back to the meeting. But anyways, yeah. It's funny. I was like looking at my Facebook memories. 3 years ago today, I posted that thing. 3 years ago today, it's March, right? Mm-hmm. This is when COVID was kicking our butt, right?
Yeah.
I was posting the thing on Facebook. They weren't kidding. All the fucking toilet paper is gone. Yeah. I remember going to Walmart like, what? There's not a single roll here. So stupid. These people.
Yeah, we are weird. We are a weird bunch of society.
Yeah. That's so funny how that happened. Did that happen all across the country?
Yeah.
It's like, get the toilet paper. Like, dude, I have like a roll from Dollar Tree that, whatever. It lasts me, Yeah, I just thought that was funny. So yeah, and that was a split. I remember thinking like, damn, like my men's meeting shut down, everything shut down. I'm like, if I wanted to go back out, here's my time. Here's your door, parish. And we saw a lot of people go back out during that time. And yeah, I ended up staying sober. I like I said, I have dreams and it's like, yeah, I have some like attainable goals and then I have some big goals. So,
yeah. Let's talk about that. What do you got on? You got going on with your. I seen you running for like a political.
Yes. Chair. Yes.
Political chair.
Yeah.
Is that what it? What is it?
It's a city council.
Okay.
So Jacksonville, it's a big deal. Because Jacksonville's a major city. It's a major metropolitan city, and there's 19 city council chairs, and they control a lot of money. $1.5 billion, and
wow.
Yeah, we got to keep up the infrastructure, different bills, where we're funneling money into. So, and it's always been my dream since I was a kid to run. So, I heard, I knew that the election was coming up, and like obviously, I'm prepared to win. I'm ready to win. But I know that from a professional analytics point of view, like I'm not going to win, right? Mm-hmm. But I was kind of aware of that. I'm way underfunded. I haven't begged. I did send out some texts to get some money together for flyers because I'm $8,000 in of my own money, and those the mailers where they send it through the mail. You've got some in your mail already, I'm sure. It cost me $4,700, so I'm like, I gotta round up some money. So, and I was able to collect $2,400. Oh, wow. I just got another check for $500. Thank you, Mr. Donaldson, very much. So I'm so humbled by the people who've supported me. Like, it's just such a humbling, like, can't even describe it. You know what I mean?
It's incredible to just run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Regardless of winning. Yeah. I mean, a dope fiend banging dope. Yeah. And now you're running for like a political office to help change not just your own life, but like for your community. Yeah. Reaching out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, it means a lot. I just feel like that's kind of like cliche and corny to say God is calling me, like, but I've always wanted to run even as a kid, and like I just feel God wants to use me in some areas, and I'm trying to lean into that. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm just trying to lean into that. So it's been an experience, man. Yeah, and like I said, it's about principle for me. Like I got out, I ran, and I'm learning a lot of things from this. What to do better next time, how much money, exactly how much money it's going to take. My opponent's got 150, 200 grand in their bank, in their donation accounts. So I'm the most underfunded guy, but it's been cool, man. It's been cool. Like doing these forums, doing these like little debates and meeting people. Like, dude, I was at the RAP forum with, it's like 150 people there, all dressed like nice, like they were past city council men and women, like big wigs in Jacksonville, done big things, and we're all there and spoke in front of them. And so yeah, and I was actually on the news last night, and it's like and they mentioned he's open about his recovery, and it's funny because I was just about to take that off. Yeah, I decided that maybe it's not the best move. Weren't we just talking about that?
We were.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even though it's too late now, it's 5 days until the election.
Yeah.
And the news is like, he's
You're
open
committed.
about his recovery.
You're
But like,
committed.
and I get how, like, the Ortega people, they don't want to hear that shit. Like, some of these other people, like, you're an idiot. Yeah. But
not necessarily.
yeah, I know. We know not necessarily. Like,
Well,
I feel like it's my greatest asset.
Yeah.
It's my greatest asset.
It's not just that. It's like people listening to this podcast, it's not just people that's in recovery. The vast majority of people are in recovery.
Yeah.
But people that's listen that I know personally, and they were like compelled by it, and they can relate to it. The principles and like, you know, the obstacles, overcoming life and stuff. And everybody in the world just about knows or has somebody close to them that had struggled from addiction. Yeah, for sure. Because people are much more open about it now.
Yeah.
You know?
So, that was a bold move. Obviously, I have some other bold moves on my website, as in, like, have you heard about the other thing that I did? The open challenge. I have, like, an open challenge. You haven't seen that?
No.
It's, like, all the talk. So, I have, like, an open challenge. Like, if anybody, my political opponents, critics, whatever, don't, you know, we can go to a cage fight.
I like it.
Yeah, man. I think we got too many like kind of
pansies.
Yeah, and cowards and political. Like it's like I'm not the best fighter. Obviously, my record proves that. Right?
Yeah.
But like I'll back up what I say, and I'll back up some of my ideas and my beliefs. So.
Well, you're based on your story and what you shared today. It's like you live very in the moment. You know what I mean? It's like you go for it, right? Like all this traveling, going to Maine. Most people ain't leaving the safe space of the neighborhood where they know where they can get dope. You know, and to jump headfirst into this, you know, into the whole politics world and in the doing the mixed martial arts fighting and all that stuff has been. You know, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're at 5 years clean. You know what I mean? Things change. You're getting your feet wet, and you learn how to hone and use those things that you have experience with and your assets of doing stuff like that for the good. You know, so it's just a process, right?
Yeah, man.
But it's fun to watch you for sure. You know, doing all these things because it takes a lot of courage to step in a cage, and to do the politics and all. It takes a lot of courage to do stuff like that.
And you know, like my you know, it's also been this journey, like bringing that subject up that I hate bringing it up because it can be controversial to people, but the whole cutting thing, where they strap the kid down and cut off a part of his body.
Yeah. Go ahead. People have circumcision. So people know.
People have like, because people hold these emotional attachments to that because whether they are cut themselves or they've agreed to have it done to their children, they have an emotional attachment to that. And psychologically, it's hard to think, hey, maybe this isn't right. Maybe God and nature designed us perfectly. We're the only developed country in the world who does it for medical reasons. The rest of the world doesn't do it. And the people who do it, like Israel, it's a religious practice, not a medical. And in the Philippines, where they do it to boys at, you know, like 12, I think, when they're going, they do it for cultural reasons, not medical. And then in a lot of African nations and Muslim nations, they side by side circumcise their girls. So it's a problem that people aren't grasping, and I have to come in and kind of bring light to this. 200 million, that's more girls in the United States are circumcised, and 1.8 billion men are circumcised. So we have this radical religious genital cutting thing going on in the world, and a lot of people are completely oblivious to it. So and the more you look into it, it's crazy. So like I said, reach out to me. I would recommend a very well done lecture. It's long, but if you want to know all the information on it, it's called Sex and Circumcision by Eric Klopper, and it's on YouTube. And I've seen every fucking video there is about it. I've studied it a lot. But Eric's is my favorite. It's just long and it's a little bit dramatic, but it's on spot. He goes into the history of it, how it's infected our medical industry in America. Exactly. And you're like, oh shit. And he'll lay it out perfectly. He'll go over all these studies. He'll go over exactly these studies where they say it lowers your risk of UTIs and HIV, and he'll go through those studies and completely smash them. Anyways, what I wanted to say about that is like I get ridiculed and made fun of because I know the facts about this, and I can't just lie down while because a lot of men aren't speaking up about this, and I refuse to just lie down while this is happening to our countrymen. So and in the world as well. So I have to, that's another path. Like we're working on a good documentary about it that's shorter than Eric's, and that's that field that has hurt me politically. People, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, you get the anti-Semitic thing because you're calling out, a religion that demands its followers to be cut, and so yeah, it's kind of hurt me, but I try to live above time, right? Time will vindicate me. So that's another thing that I've had to deal with in my recovery life, where it's separated me from people in recovery. But today, it's like all my friends are on my side now. It just takes time. Sometimes it takes time for the subconscious mind to start to piece things together subconsciously.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what else did you want to ask?
That was
the fighting.
You've done an incredible job. You have an extraordinary story. You really do. That I believe that many people, especially those that may be struggling, will find a lot of hope in. Because if you can get clean and stay clean, anybody can get clean and stay clean, or sober, or however you want to call it, So it's a pleasure having you on, man. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor. It's an honor, brother.
Thank you. Everybody says that. It's so weird for me.
Dude, you're the man, bro. You're the man. You're the fucking man. I don't care.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Brother.
It's a huge pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.